everyone. I'm going to talk about the communicative language teaching. What is communicative language teaching? CLT has several principles about teaching, including recommendations about methods and syllables, where the focus is on meaningful communication, not structure. Use, not usage. The features of CLT: fluency is emphasized, interaction and communications, learning centered, active learning. The teacher is a facilitator and analyst. There are three kinds of material: text-based, task-based, and realia. The history of communication and language teaching. It's found in the change in the British language teaching traditions. Communicative language teaching started its rise to prominence during the 1917 and 18 for these reasons: increasing demand for language learning in Europe when the European Common Market opened. More secondary and high school start teaching foreign language, and also in United Kingdom, the appearance of comprehensive school gave all high school students the chance of study a foreign language. There are three phases: the traditional approach of 1916, the classic communicative language teaching of 1970 to 1990, and the current communicative language teaching late 1990 to the present. Phase 1: Traditional approach. It's based on the belief that grammar could be learned through direct instructions and through a methodology that makes more use of repetitive practice and drilling. Techniques that were often employed include memorizations of dialogues, questions and answer practice, substitution drills, and various forms of guided speaking and reading practice. Some approaches are grammar translation method. It's focused only on reading skill of learners. Translation under a specific techniques of deductive skills was the main language activity. The goal of this approach was to develop learners' ability to read and appreciate the literature on the target language. The direct method. It focuses more on the oral skills and the teaching inductively with no use of language. Reading approach. It stresses on reading skill and thus is close to grammar translation method in this regard. An audiolingual method. It's demanding native-like pronunciation, which is almost unrealistic word. For that, there is a bad idea for this time. Phase 2: Classic communicative language teaching. Here the attention shifts to the knowledge and skill needed to use a way for different communicative purposes, such as making requests, giving advice, making suggestions, describing wishes and needs, and so on. So there are the communicative competence. Here the communicative competence and not simply grammatical competence like the traditional approach should be the goal of language teaching. The next question to be solved was: what would your syllabus that reflects the notion of communicative competence look like, and implications would it have to for language teaching methodology? The result was communicative language teaching. So there is the phase 3, current communicative language teaching. There are some principles. The communicative principle that say that activities that involve a real communication promote learning. The task principle said that activities in which language is used to carry out meaningful tasks promotes learning. The mindfulness principle is that language that is meaningful to the learning support the learning process. And also, CLT grades emphasize on the help to students use different forms of the target language in various contexts. Communication is a holistic process. The classroom is characterized with the collaboration and sharing. The learning role is the negotiation between himself and the learning process, interaction with the group's activities, and classroom procedures. The teacher roles are to facilitate the communication process between all participants in the classroom and a guide between students, activities, and tests.